Welcome to another episode of Data, everyone. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I'm excited for the guest I have on today. She's got a company that she's going to share a little bit more about, but it's important for families to hear a little bit about what her company does and how it can help you and how it can benefit you. But my good friend Andrew, is on the Data Podcast. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it. Let's just dive right in. Let's get a little bit of a backstory of you, and then kind of how you got this company started, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good. So, I work with a company called Mylio, and we make a product called Mylio Photos, which is an application to help you organize your lifetime of photos. Now, I wish I was the brains behind this, but I am just an employee, but I do a lot of these types of podcasts and things like that. And I am kind of the face of the company. But our CEO created this company about 14 years ago, and he's the former CTO of Microsoft. And this was the product that he needed. And there was nothing else out there that was filling the gap of what he wanted to organize his family's memories. So he decided to create it. And so they did, kind of a long-term science project, hired some really great engineers, made this product. And about 3 years ago, I got brought on board with a handful of other people to start growing the business and start marketing it to families and all of the people who need help getting their lifetime of memories organized. So kind of in a nutshell, what Mylio does is it helps you bring in all of your pictures from all of your different sources. A lot of us have pictures on our phones. We've got pictures on hard drives. If you've been around for a while, you probably have pictures in photo albums. You have, maybe even boxes of photos that you've inherited from other family members. You might have memory cards from cameras, and their pictures are everywhere. The goal is to get them all into one library that you can then access from all of your devices. And so Mylio works on Mac, Windows, iOS, and Android, and any combination thereof. And the really cool thing about this product is that it is cloud independent, which means you're not required to put all your stuff in the cloud to let your devices talk directly to each other. So you can form your own private network, and privacy is something that we are really, really big on. If you choose to put your stuff in the cloud, it's a great way to back things up. It's a great way to access things. We offer encryption for that. So again, you can keep your stuff private. And again, it's optional. It's not required to have your stuff in the cloud for the system to work. Whereas if you're using something else like an Apple Photos or a Google Photos, the access requires having everything in the cloud. And they have their own, limits on privacy and where they set those standards. We've taken that a step further and we let you have full control of your stuff. And it's all on, say, a hard drive that you have, and you have full control and access to all your pictures. We just help you organize your stuff, but your stuff is yours. So
Okay,
that's kind
cool.
of what we do in a nutshell.
Okay, cool. When I think about, gosh, I was going through my phone just a couple days ago, and I was, we take random photos, and then I do this all the time. I take random photos, and then it's just random photos that I would either post on social media or something, or just know that, you know what, I don't really need that photo. So then I go through and I delete it, and I find myself just deleting photos. But I do keep a lot of pictures. I've got a ton of pictures on my phone. And I've always been like, I need to really get these saved into some sort of hard drive or something separate other than my phone because it's using space on my phone too.
hmm
So when it comes to Milo, is it if I were to use it to save my pictures, does it still create that space on, does it still open up space on my phone or does it still keep the same, amount of usage on my phone?
So you have a couple of options there. You do have the option to let Mylio import your stuff from your phone, put it on a hard drive, and then if you want to browse your pictures, you pull up the Mylio app instead of, say, your Apple Photos or your Google Photos, whichever platform you're using. So once things are in Mylio, on your phone, there's an option we have that's called Free Up Space. And what it's going to do is check your library to make sure that the media that is on your camera roll is backed up to your vaults, which is what we call the external hard drives that hold all your pictures. And it verifies that. And then it will go in and clean off that space on your phone. You can
Okay.
still access all your pictures through the Mylio app on your phone instead of going into your camera roll. Now, there's a lot of people who don't want to have their camera roll. They kind of think of that as another backup. And what we like to encourage people to do, whether you're using our system or not, is to do a 3-2-1 backup. So you want to have 3 copies of your data on at least 2 different types of media with one of them offsite. The
Okay.
cloud is a great offsite option. So if you're already paying for iCloud storage, let's say you have a family plan, the Apple One or whatever, and you're sharing that, and you've got enough space there to back up your phone, that's a good backup option to keep that in an offsite location. And then you can use Mylio to create a local location where you have your stuff backed up locally and accessible that way too. So there's a couple of different ways you can go about it. And Mylio is extremely flexible for a lot of different workflows. So it can accommodate a lot of different needs for a lot of different types of people.
Okay. Now let me ask you this though. I know that uh, Milio isn't the first of its kind to do something like this. I know there's a lot of other companies out there. So I guess the biggest question probably that you guys get as a company or even the CEO is, well, what separates you from the other companies that are out there that do something like this?
So it's that peer-to-peer connection between your devices and the cloud independence. That's really what makes us different. There are a lot of applications that you can use to organize your photos that are not using the cloud, but they're meant to be used on a single device. And then to access those pictures from another device, you have to then load them into another system in order to facilitate that. So maybe that's Dropbox, maybe that's iCloud, maybe that's something else, but you're having to use another system. With Mylio, you can put everything into your Mylio library. It's stored locally on your devices. And then when your devices go online, they ping up to our servers. We make a secure connection, and then your devices talk directly to each other. So you avoid having to put everything up in the cloud, and you're able to access via our app all of your stuff from all of your devices. So that's really what makes it unique. And that, again, it's the control and privacy aspect of it.
So I can use this as almost a family plan too, right? I mean, I can
We do have
have
family plans.
okay, so like my wife can upload her pictures and like my pictures and her pictures will all to be together in one application.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what our family plans are for. So those are set up for having up to 5 people with as many devices as you want. There's no limit to the devices. It's not like you get your phone and her phone. You can have your phone, your tablet, your computer, and she can have her tablet, her phone, her computer. And you can even add in for a couple of kids if you want, or extended family if you're, working on a bigger family history project. You guys can all access the same library. And the family plan lets you set up permissions so certain people have access to certain things and have certain permissions to do certain things. So you might say you can view these things, but I don't want you to be able to delete anything. I don't want you to be able to modify these things. And so you can set up permissions with that, and we actually walk you through it. So one of the wonderful things that we do that's pretty unique is when you sign up for a subscription with Milo, you're offered a one-on-one onboarding call. So if you sign up for just an individual plan, you get that one-on-one call. If you get a family plan, you get offered that one-on-one call for you and everyone on your family plan that is signing up. So up to 5 people, we will work with you to make sure everything is configured and working smoothly for you. So that's, because there's a lot of stuff that can go into that, and different people have different needs. So we want to make sure everybody can make that work.
Okay, and what about for videos?
So Mylio does video as well. So it will show your videos, it will synchronize your videos between your devices. It is not a video editor, it doesn't do any video encoding, but it certainly can sync and view your videos.
Okay. All right. And then, when I was kind of looking through the application, one of the things that first came to mind was like my parents, a little bit older, maybe not so savvy on technology, my mother-in-law is kind of the same way. I mean, how user friendly is this?
So if you're on a family plan and let's say you're going to be the admin of your family, you can set up a device for your relatives, for your parents who aren't so technical, that kind of trims down the features that are available and they can just sit there and enjoy stuff. So you have the option to do that. The other thing you can do is we have shared albums, which create non-indexed web pages. So you can create a web gallery. So you select your images, you create your web gallery, and you can just send them a link. And that's actually how I share things with my 98-year-old grandma is I create one of these web galleries. She just clicks a link on her phone because she knows how to text. She's pretty savvy. And she can do that. She doesn't have to download any software. She doesn't have to learn anything new. She just opens it up and can look at the pictures.
Okay, well that's good then. I think sharing the link would be helpful, something that they can just click on and go and view photos and that's awesome. Um, Now I know their mission. I know they have a mission. What's their mission statement? I know what it is, but I want you to say it. Do you know what their mission statement is?
For Mileo,
Yeah.
um, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I know we're out there to help people organize their lifetime of memories.
Okay. So
That's really what we're about.
okay. So from what I'm told, it's changed the way the world remembers. And
Okay,
I'm
yeah,
just
I've seen
curious.
that in our marketing.
So I guess what drew you into this company to want to start working for them and connect with them and their mission?
That's an excellent question. So I am a photographer by trade, and I got started working with different photography software companies several years ago and found my way to Mylio. A few years ago, I got offered the position, took a look at what they were doing. I am a very perfectionistic kind of person. I like to organize, like to have things a certain way. And working with an application that lets me do that is really important. And then as a photographer, this software actually solved problems that I didn't even realize I had at the time. So I have been an Adobe Lightroom user for many, many years. And I love the program. It's wonderful. But the thing that always kind of hung me up is when they started integrating cloud stuff, their cloud storage is so expensive.
Mm,
And I don't do enough volume to make it to where I can put my entire library in the cloud and have it then accessible from all my devices. I just assumed that was a problem I wasn't going to be able to solve. I could have a few pictures on my phone. I could make a specific portfolio album and do that. But mostly I just would have to keep my entire portfolio, everything on my computer. Then I got introduced to Mylio and the ability to access my entire library from any of my devices, whether I am on my phone or, working with a client across town, I can pull out my iPad and be like, okay, here's some of the other stuff I've done and pull it up. Or I can sit down with family and friends and be like, do you remember when? And I can pull it up from any device that I'm on without having to have everything in the cloud, which is prohibitively expensive. So that was the big problem it solved for me. And once I realized that that was possible, then I'm like, I really want to be a part of this because people don't necessarily know that this is a problem that can be solved,
hmm.
but we can do it.
Yeah. It's funny. It's a problem that can be solved for sure. It's one of the things like I was just talking to you. We were just talking before we were recording and how, where we live as far as proximity. We moved from our other house to the new house and going through and packing up stuff. I came across I couldn't believe it, but I'm like, we lived in our other house for 25 years, so it's a crazy. You can imagine when you live there for 25 years what you accumulate, but
Right.
that's a whole nother podcast episode. But when I was packing, I was like, what? And I still had the digital. Remember the digital cameras that like people would put on like at a wedding, they'd put it on the table and you just take these pictures. I mean, I still had some of these throwaway cameras that have pictures on them. And I'm
Wow.
like, okay. Well, now I don't know how to get these off. Is that something that Mylio does too, or no? Is that something completely separate? I don't know. So I'm just my
We
own.
we work with people who can help you with that. So
Okay.
we can connect you with a professional photo manager. These are people who do everything from organizing your pictures that you deliver to them to scanning and digitizing and things like this. So if it's a little film camera, I mean, I know there's camera stores that I could take those into and they can go ahead and process those if it's an old film. If it's an old digital throwaway, it'd be a matter of finding out those connectors. And a lot of these photo managers, they keep all sorts of technology on hand to be able to convert these different types of files. And there's tons of them that are out there and they just work one-on-one with different clients. And so working with somebody who's in your area to get that information out of those cameras is probably the best way to do that. And we can
Yeah.
help you find someone.
Okay. Yeah. Because I didn't realize that I had them or that we had them. And there's only a couple of them, but I did find like SD cards and stuff like that that I know have pictures on them and stuff, which I know I can get access to.
Mhm.
But those little cameras, I'm like, I've never, like, I didn't even remember we had them, number one. And number two, I guess I have to try to search to figure out who actually would be able to digitize this and get the data that's off there or the pictures that are off there. So
Yeah, there's
that's
got to be
good.
a card in them, or it's got to have some sort of cable connection. It's just be a matter of maybe going on even eBay and finding the proper cable. So I would
Yeah.
start with like the brand of the camera and just do a little bit of web searching to find out what you need to do to pull that information. Shouldn't be that difficult, I would think.
Yeah, I would think
It takes time.
with the creation of chat, I should be able to put it in there and give me an answer. That's my own issue to deal with, I guess. When it comes on my podcast, we talk a lot about building legacies for our kids. And from your perspective, why do you feel preserving and organizing photos is a powerful way for families to kind of build and pass on those legacies?
Well, our photos are our stories and the stories of our parents and our grandparents and everyone who came before us. I've personally taken on being kind of the family memory keeper for my family and have scanned in hundreds and hundreds of photos. And I think one of the biggest payoffs is I'm looking through these pictures and I'm seeing facial expressions and I'm seeing attitude and seeing these different aspects of people that maybe I knew when they were older and I was quite young or never even knew and going, okay, that's why I am the way I am. So you learn about yourself and you learn about the challenges and hardships and joys that came before you and who that shaped the people who ended up raising you and yourself. And I think that's really powerful. And there's a lot of things that those people in our lives have experienced using software like Mylio or any other program that you want to use to organize your stuff to record those important details, to add a caption, add context, add location information, add face tags, all of that stuff. The longer we wait to do that, the more those stories get lost. And so taking the time to do that now and recording as much of this as you can, talking to your parents or grandparents if they're still around to get that information, record as much as possible because once that all gets handed off to the next generation, if there's no context there, it's going to be meaningless. They can look at it, but if they don't know who it is or why that picture was there or how it connects to them, it's not going to have the worth that it will if you go, oh my gosh, I can see myself in this chain of people.
And here's a random question that just kind of popped into my head as I'm kind of scrolling through some of the questions that I am going to ask you. But um, when it comes to the name Mylio, how did that name come about?
That's a great question. So I actually just heard our CEO talking about this on another podcast recently, and I knew most of this, but we usually tell people Mylio stands for My Life is Organized. But
Hmm.
when we first started the company, it was Milo, Mylo. And turns out there was a patent or copyright or some sort of infringement with somebody else that was really old, but they wanted to keep that name. So we ended up just putting another letter in there and going, well, this stands for My Life is Organized. That's perfect. My
Yeah.
Life is Organized. So
Oh,
that's the name. It's just it started out as kind of a nonsense word that, didn't mean anything, and we gave it a meaning.
that's cool. That's awesome. That makes sense. Um, yeah, as you said you're a photographer and obviously content creator and all that, and you balance all your creative work that you do, not only personally, but also in the company as well. What have you learned about, I guess, what have you learned that parents listening today could apply to managing their own time and passions like you have?
Oh, you know what? I think when it comes to family, as long as you're putting your priorities in order, your kids are first. That's always going to be the case, right? Like that, I think, is going to be the best path forward. And if that is the center and you build around that, that's going to give you the best path for success, both personally and professionally. Because at the end of the day, it's about how the kids are raised and how they go out into society. And your presence and you putting them first is really going to be a part of that. Now, of course, you have to pay the bills and you have to do all the things that make that possible. But in looking at how I was raised, I always knew that, family was the most important. Like my dad worked his butt off and my mom worked her butt off. But family was always the most important. So if that is the core of your life and your parenting, I think that has to be the focus. And so balancing everything else, as long as you know where your focus should be, then everything else can build on top of that. So does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm a, being in, I've been a parent for 26 years now, and I've had this podcast now, shoot, close to 6 years.
Nice.
And one of the things that I've learned, just in looking back on my own parenting journey, and then also talking to, I talk to people all the time on my show. One of the things that I have learned is it's almost impossible to have a balanced life. People always like to say work-life balance, but when you think about it, when you're applying a work-life balance to your life, something is not balanced because you're devoting your attention to one particular thing at that moment, which means everything else is taking a back seat. So therefore, the balance is not there. So if I'm like, if I'm working for Mileo, and I know that I have this project I'm working on, my other priorities, meaning my kids or my family or other things at work for that matter, won't be as much of a priority. So it's hard to find that balance is my whole point. And
Absolutely.
I think for parents, what you said is true. Is you putting the things that are important to you as a priority at that time. So for me, I did a lot of coaching in sports and things like that. I worked corporate America, so I had to be able to find the balance between my job and also my family.
Hmm.
And I used to do things like go in extra early just so I could leave early so I could go coach my kids. So that was my way of balancing my work and my family. It's like, okay, I'm not pushing my kids' games aside for work, but
Hmm.
I am giving when I'm at work, I go in a little bit early so I can get out a little bit early. I'm giving 100% of my attention at work at that time. And that's why I was doing that. And
Yeah.
then once it shifted to my family, then my family was my 100% priority and work wasn't. So it's whatever your focus is at the time. But I think when it comes to photos and memories, things like that that we save, um, the part of the balance in there is actually enjoying those memories. Like you said, when you're organizing stuff, yeah, you're putting in work because you're having to, organize your files and all this kind of stuff for all these different photos that you have from family members. But at the same time, you're getting to enjoy maybe pictures that you hadn't seen,
Yep.
and going, oh, I remember that from 15 years ago or 20 years ago. I remember that picture. And it's really cool that we have the ability now. Technology is amazing, so we have the ability now to really go back and cherish those moments. So that's awesome.
Well, as far as, being able to make time and, work it into your prioritization to do a project like this, one of the things I encourage people to do is to take it in small chunks. And, if you have 10 minutes while you're standing in line somewhere, or you're waiting for a doctor's appointment, or you're at the DMV, or whatever you're doing, because Mylio is available on your phone, on your tablet, you can pull that up and you can be doing some of that organization instead of doom scrolling. So you can sit there and get something productive done, enjoyable, and then still be able to fit that into those little pockets of time. And then when you're doing the bigger project, set aside small bits of time and then get the family involved. I think that's a big part of it too. One of the things I've really enjoyed doing was sitting down with my mom and my aunts and my grandma and looking through all these old pictures and figuring out who was in these pictures. And here's my grandma pulling out her address book, and my aunts are going through their phones going, okay, I think that's this person. My grandma's like, no, it's this person. And trying to figure all that out and how much that brings us together and the stories that are shared during those times. I think that's really powerful. And that, again, it's part of the family time.
Yeah, I agree with you. Although there's one area that I disagree with you in, and that's the DMV part. I think you'll have more than 10 minutes to go through if you're sitting at DMV.
Well,
No,
you can get more done
I'm
there.
just I'm just kidding. But no, I do think it is cool because I think back to just times where I have come across, whether it was from social media, goodness, years and years and years ago that I may have posted a picture of my son when he was little. And my boys are 26 and 23 now. So when they were little, I posted something on social media and then happened to come across the memory of that photo. And I go, whoa, I don't, I mean, I remember the photo, but I don't know that I have this anywhere. Like obviously I've got it somewhere because I took that picture, but I want to recapture that. So I've got to
Mhm.
save that photo now. So that way I know exactly where it's at. But being able to then share it with my boys and go, yeah, dude, you were 4 years old in this picture and look how goofy you looked, that kind of thing. Um, but it's cool because then they get to go, oh, okay, yeah, all right, or I remember that, or no, I don't remember that. But it is neat to kind of go back and it creates the connection with
Yeah,
family, like you were
absolutely.
sharing with your aunts and your grandma.
Yep.
Um, for parents that might feel overwhelmed with, like me, I have thousands of photos on my phone. I probably have thousands of photos on my phone.
Mhm.
What's the first step we can take when it comes to starting to organize those memories in a way that we'd have for our kids years later?
So let's put this in the context of you don't need to necessarily go buy any other software. You're just going to work with what you have. You're going to open up your camera roll on your phone. I would go through there and start deleting things you don't need. Just every
Which
now
I
and
do a
again,
lot.
pull up your phone on, the weekend or set up aside a couple of minutes here and there, delete screenshots. Something I take pictures of that I end up not needing is gift ideas, especially around the holidays when I'm walking through the big box store. I take pictures of like, oh, there's a cool tool. Send it to my mom. Hey, would dad like this? And then that ends up in my camera roll. It ends up getting into my Milio. And it's like, okay, I don't need those things. So I go through it periodically and just delete those types of things. So that's probably the first thing, really low hanging fruit that anybody can do. You don't need to buy anything else. Just start cleaning out some of the clutter. And then start taking a look at things like burst mode photos, especially if you're a parent and especially if they're young kids that are out doing sports. You probably have those series where you sit there and hold the shutter button down, you get 8, 10, 15 shots that are all almost the same. Take a look through those and find the one or two that have the great expression, that have the great memory, and then get rid of all the ones where there's awkward facial expressions and, okay, it looks like they're about to fall down because like it's just a weird pace and they're running. You know, toss most of those. So just start weeding out some of the stuff that you don't need. There are tools in Milio Photos that can help you do that more efficiently, but anybody can do that on their camera roll. So just start weeding out some of that stuff. The next thing I would say is if you have older photos, stuff that needs to get scanned, consider if it's a project you want to take on yourself or you want to hire someone to help you out with it. And there's like varying degrees of how you can do that. So you can do it all DIY. You can go out and buy a nice scanner and you can scan everything in yourself. And that's a big project. I've done it. It's cool, but you have to have time to do it and you have to have a space where you can do that and get set up and organized. On the other end of that spectrum, you can hire somebody like a professional photo manager to digitize all that stuff for you and hand you an organized library or hand you those files and then you can organize them. So there's all different ways to accomplish that depending on what resources, your time and your money that you have to accomplish that. So I would say if you have those old boxes and stuff, start gathering them in one place. If you have any, memory cards lying around, those cameras that you mentioned, start putting all those things that you need to get digitized and get data off of, get them in one place. And then start, making some notes. This was from this era. This was from this era. And then one by one, just start pulling those things out and getting them taken care of. It's that little by little, take it in small little batches. That's really the only way you get through those big projects.
Yeah. I think I do what you initially talked about as far as cleaning out some of my pictures and stuff. Like I will, I take a random picture of something, even of a document of something. I take a picture of a document and I text it to my wife and say, hey, we need to take care of this, or did you do this, or do we need this? And then days later, or even a week later, I'll go back through my photo and be like, why do I still have that on my phone? And I end up deleting it off. So things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I do tend to go through and kind of clean up things. But I still have thousands of pictures on my phone that I want to preserve. And I know I still have a lot of space on my phone, but I know my space is, I mean, I look at my usage on my phone and 60% of my usage is photos. And it's like, okay, I need to go through and really get rid of some of these or move them to another location to free up that space. So in saying that, what about I know there's subscription, all that stuff. So how does that work with Mylio, and what are the different tiers that you can share?
Sure. So as far as the different plans, the different tiers that we have plans for individuals. So if you're the only one planning to use that account, get an individual account. If you want to include your family members on it, you can get a family plan, which lets you add up to 5 people. The individual plan, I believe, is around 249 a year, and the family plan, I want to say, is about 499. So you get up to 5 people for the like double the price. So price of 2 people, separate accounts, gives you up to 5 people. Is to get you going on the process. You go ahead and subscribe to the software, you get it downloaded. Either you set it up yourself if you like, or you can work with one of our team members to get that set up and get it going. We would recommend that you get an external hard drive that's dedicated for your photos, and we call those vaults. A vault is just a device that we say holds your entire photo library. Get a vault, connect it to your computer, install Mylio Photos, and then install the app on your phone. Give it access to your photo library. Mylio will automatically start importing those pictures and putting them on that vault drive. So you're automatically creating a backup just in doing that. Once you do that and stuff is backed up to the vault and fully synced, then you can use that free up space option that I told you about earlier, where you can free up some space on your phone, stuff that's already backed up to your vault, can delete it off of your phone. And that will clear up some of that. And then from there, you can just start organizing things on your phone, moving them into folders if you want to do that, or adding face tags, adding captions, keywords, context, all of that information. And then even if you don't want to do all of that in Mylio, there's different views in there that I call auto organization. And so we have what's called the calendar view. So no matter how many folders of information you add to Mylio from all of these different sources, it looks at the metadata in your pictures and it puts it on this beautiful calendar. And it shows you basically your life in pictures. You click on a year, then you see every month of that year. You click on a month, you click it, see every day in that month. Click on a day, you see all of the picture, excuse me, all of the pictures from that day. So if you're somebody who likes to find things based on when it happened, the calendar is amazing. If you're someone who likes to find things based on where they happened, you're like, all right, I know that happened when we were traveling through Arizona, but I don't remember exactly when that was or who was there. We have a map view. And especially for people who are taking pictures with their phones, those have GPS information already built in. So you can look at the map, zoom in on the map and be like, okay, there's my Arizona pictures. Ah, okay, there were 2 trips actually, and there's all those photos. So that's a really cool thing. And you can add that GPS information to pictures that don't have it. So if you're capturing things on an independent camera, like a DSLR, mirrorless, or those historical family photos, you can add that location information to those as well. So like in my Mylio, I can zoom in on Detroit, Michigan. I've never personally been there, but my grandparents have, and I have those
Mm,
pictures. So
that's
those are
cool.
on the map in my Mylio. And then finally, I think one of the most fun things to do is tagging people. Mylio has an awesome facial recognition uh, tool built in. It uses AI, finds similar faces, helps group them together, and then you name them. And then you can go into what we call the people view. And everyone you've tagged has their own container. And you can just go ahead and click on, say, your kid's container, and you can see all of all the pictures of your kid from, if you've got pictures in there from birth till today, you can see their entire life in pictures. And then you can always filter down those views and say, I only want to see the 4 and 5 star stuff, or I only want to see, stuff that happened in this time period. You can do all of that.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, as you're talking, I'm thinking about different pictures and stuff that I have that I could organize. And one of the things that I was thinking about when you were talking about editing earlier, where Mylio doesn't offer any type of editing features or functions,
For video.
is for video. Okay, so are there certain things that Mylio is going to do in the future that maybe would fall along those editing lines?
So as far as for video goes, I don't see us becoming in the near future doing video encoding, but we do have basic photo editing tools in there. So you can change
Okay,
the exposure, the contrast. We've got some really cool presets and things to make your pictures look better. We also, for the person who wants to get into more advanced editing, we work with just about every single editing tool out on the planet.
okay.
So you want to open your stuff in Photoshop? Great. You want to open it up in another editing application? no problem. So all of that is possible. So editing is certainly possible. And you can do a
Awesome.
lot of it from just in Mylio.
Okay, cool. Well, I think it's awesome. I'm actually going to go on and download the app tonight, as a matter of fact, and I will start to begin to learn the process. It yeah, obviously, for those of you that are watching, listening, there may be areas that or things that she talked about that may sound complicated. Trust me, they're not. I know what she's talking about. And I'm certain that when you go in and download the app, that it'll be the functionality of it will be simple, and you'll be surprised at how easy it is. So that's awesome. Well, thank you very much, Angela, for sharing all that. I appreciate it. That's awesome.
Yeah, my pleasure. Organizing your photos is a fun family activity and there's a great deal of payoff for it. And then because Mylio allows you to add multiple devices, you can add multiple hard drives to back things up, have multiple copies of your library, the peace of mind that that gives you knowing your stuff is protected. If, you lose your phone, a hard drive dies, that you have other copies of your entire library of photos because these are so incredibly precious. That's one of the biggest things for me is I want to make sure people have their library in multiple places because things happen. And I
Right.
want them to make sure that those memories are preserved.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, thank you very much for being on the show. I appreciate it. Listen, guys, for those of you that are interested as far as the app goes and as far as downloading those memories, saving them separately from your phone, please make sure you check out the website. All the links will be in the show notes below, so you can check those out and become a subscriber. That's awesome. Thank you very much, Angela, for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Listen, guys, it's been another episode of Dad Up. I want to thank my good friend Angela, Andrew, for being on the show. Please make sure you look at all the show notes so you can see the links there that I have that you can follow, subscribe, download the app, all that stuff. Check out the website if you want to learn a little bit more. You can message me about it, and I'm sure that you can message Milio as well. And there'll be people there that'll help you through it if you're struggling with something. But I think it's really cool. I think it's a program that I'm definitely going to be looking into tonight to help me because I have, like I said, a gazillion photos on my phone like everybody else. And I have recently been thinking about trying to get those converted over to where I don't have to use that space on my phone anymore for those photos. So, listen, this has been another episode of Dad Up. I want to thank again my good friend Angela for being on. And if you are not yet subscribed to my show, please make sure you do that so you don't miss any of the awesome guests that I have on each and every week. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all in the next episode. Dad Up.
Wow, another amazing episode in the books. So much was shared, and I'm truly grateful my guest was able to pour into you to help you elevate your dad game and really dad up. Make sure you bang that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're here, please don't forget to leave me a rating and a review. I always appreciate the feedback. And one last thing, don't forget, your role as a dad is one of the most important roles you have. So if you need a little help or have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my website at daduptribe.com or at my Instagram page at daduppodcast. Until next time, everyone, dad up.